Welcome to Overnight Market Brief, Pre-Market Edition by AGI Era. Good morning. Today is Wednesday, February 18th, 2026, and it is shortly after 8 a.m. Eastern Time. This is your executive summary of global market developments, analyzing the overnight flows in Asia and Europe, the key macro drivers, and the setup for the North American Open. The prior session and macro context. First, a look back at yesterday's close. Wall Street finished on a mixed footing. The S&P 500 settled at 68.43, up 0.10%, while the Nasdaq 100 edged lower by 0.13% to close at 24,702. Crucially, the session saw a slight divergence in equity performance, but the real story right now is in the macro assets. Right now, the 10-year Treasury yield is trading at 4.063%, up 0.10%. The U.S. dollar index is marginally higher at 97.13, while crude oil is significantly higher around 63.97, and gold is also notably up at 4,964.76. The modest rise in the 10-year yield in the dollar suggests underlying stability, while the strong gains in crude oil and gold point to potential inflation expectations or a broader commodity-led risk-on sentiment. Overnight session, Asia and Europe. Moving to the overnight session, global markets have been mixed. In Asia, the picture was mixed. In Tokyo, the Nikkei 225 finished up 1.02%, driven by robust January export data from Japan. Meanwhile, in Greater China, the Hang Seng was up 0.52% based on February 16th data, while the Shanghai Composite was down 1.26% based on February 13th data. The divergence here reflects the stale nature of the available data for Chinese markets, preventing a real-time assessment of current sentiment. In Europe, major indices are trading with a cautious optimism. The price action suggests a positive reaction to decelerating inflation figures, providing a moderately positive lead-in for U.S. traders. U.S. futures and the open. Turning to the U.S. pre-market, equity futures are trading higher. S&P 500 futures are trading up 0.33%, while Nasdaq 100 futures are up 0.44%. The relative performance suggests a broad-based positive sentiment, with tech futures slightly outperforming despite the marginally higher 10-year yield. The daily catalyst. Looking ahead to the session, investors are focused on three key catalysts. First, the sharp deceleration in inflation across Europe, with UK annual CPI falling to 3.4% and France's inflation rate 0.4% in January. Second, the upcoming release of the Federal Reserve minutes, which will provide further insight into the central bank's policy outlook. And finally, Japan's strong export growth in January, signaling global trade resilience. Given the overnight setup in rates in the dollar, the market's path of least resistance appears to be higher, pending any surprises from the Federal Reserve minutes. That concludes your overnight market brief. Disclaimer: this podcast is not financial advice. Data may be delayed or inaccurate. Always conduct your own due diligence.